Hello, hello, lovely people. Welcome to another devrel show. I have one of my cat who is joining today. Tails is joining the show. Actually, I don't think he cared that much. He just was stretching and want to go back to sleep. But yeah, always a pleasure to do the devrel show. I may be repeating myself, but I always have amazing guests and some friends, some people that I didn't know before, and now that I know in the shows. But I always feel like the stupidest person in the room when I do that show, and it's perfect like that. I love to have brilliant people like my guest today. And sorry about the pronunciation, I may say it wrong, but Jere,
Jere, more on
Jere.
the Y side with the
Oh,
J
Jere,
pronunciation. Yeah,
Jere.
Jere. Yeah.
Okay, good, good, good. Sorry, I want to be respectful about people's name, but I have a pretty bad accent when the like any most like non-American folks that struggle when like the name is not like francophone or anglophone. Francophone in my case because French is my language. So anyway, thanks a lot for being on the show. That's a pleasure to have you. For our audience, tell us who you are.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jere. Um, I'm VP of Enterprise Integrations at here at Mappedin. Mappedin is an indoor mapping company. We've been doing maps for malls, stadiums, airports for 13 years. And part of that is the developer relations function. So we're of course not able to make all the solutions for everybody that wants to use indoor maps. So we help others build on top of the indoor mapping tools that we've created. And that's what I do. Technically making sure our customers or partners are successful in what they're doing with indoor maps.
That's awesome. So you said like, oh, I'm, you said a title VP of engineering, and you said at here. Is it because Mappedin used to be here,
No.
or
I used to work at a company called Here Maps,
okay?
and for a long time, it still exists. It used to be part of a company called Nokia from Finland. That's where I'm from. I did marketing and communications there for a long time, for about 6 years before I went back to school and studied engineering, which was always my hobby. I was coding on my free time, and then eventually decided maybe I should make this technical side more of my role, more of my daily activities instead of just the hobby in the evening. And yeah, I've been rehashing the good old times with some colleagues from here recently. So I think that's what came up out
Okay,
first.
okay. Yeah, actually, I was looking at your LinkedIn profile while we were talking, and yeah, I see here in the list of places you work on. And I'm curious. You said like you had like that technical side, but I was looking actually at here, and you were a social media specialist. And after you moved to like a QA engineer role and DevOps consultant,
Yeah.
software developer, so you kind of like went from a non-technical role, which probably still has you to have some technical knowledge, to be able to do social media in a tech company. You need to have some like technical skills, but there's also a difference between sharing stuff and like building it. So what brought you to move from like for the sake of the discussion, a non-technical role to a technical one?
Yeah, so I really been doing tech stuff more than I've been doing marketing or social media stuff in my life as well. I learned how to code when I was 9 years old, just
Yeah.
by looking through what was on my old MS DOS machine, dating myself there. But like I became the tech support very early at my family, and I was just digging through the computer, found this QBasic program in the old DOS computer. Like I went through all the executables and tried to figure out what they do, and then there was this programming environment with some sample code. So I just started building from there. Um, when I was 14, I built something for our shop class. So in Finland, people do woodwork or metal work or some work in their elementary schooling. So I built a little application there, and then it just faded away from there. It didn't really become a career choice or kind of study point for me after high school. So I went to business school at that point instead, but it never really faded away from what I love to do. I love to tinker with technology. It's a creative outlet for me, and especially now when you can do so many things so easily. with technology, and distribution is there. You just put a website up, and anybody, you can share with anybody at any time. So I always wanted to do that. And on my free time, even when I was working in marketing, I was building things. I was tinkering. So my wife and I were living in California at the time, and we wanted to move back to Europe, and that was going to be a break in my career anyways. And I decided maybe now is a good time to go back to school. And at this point, I'm 27, I think, 28, when I'm going back to school. 29, actually. So it's kind of a fun one to go back to school. And I went to university in Finland at that point with all these people who have just come out of high school, and they remember all the lessons of math and everything that they've been doing, and I'm there like,
it's been a while.
It's been a while. I caught up quickly. I worked really hard to get back into all of those things, but I'm super happy that I managed to do that career switch. And to be honest, I think it's one of my strengths in developer relations is having that dual experience and switching careers, because it's not just about the technology when you do developer relations.
Oh yeah, I totally agree, and I love that you said that, because I do a lot of like coffee chat with like people that want to start in techs, and they want tips. And even if I always tell them like it's been a while that I didn't start in tech, I mean, like I've been in tech for a long time, I can still give advices from when I was hiring people, or like from what I've seen that can help you being successful starting in work. But like often people that are like, I talk to two types of people, like really young people where they're looking for their first job, and that's one thing. But I talk also to people that change career, and they come from usually a non-technical role, and most of them has the view that like, oh yeah, but I have no experience in tech. And I'm like, that's true, but like all the experience you had before, there's a lot of things that you can bring back to a tech role, even if it's not a developer advocate role. I mean, like as a developer, as an engineer, you still need to communicate with the rest of the team. You still need to be able to like solve issues. You like many things that you use in your previous life can be repurposed for like your next role, for you to be more efficient, effective, to be a better communicator, to be a better team player. So love that you shared that.
Yeah, 100%. And for me, it really is something that I bring into when I manage other people and try to help them grow their skills as well. Is we often talk about and hear about this T-shaped model of skills. So have a little knowledge about a lot, and then something where you go really deep. And I've extended it, maybe because of my personal experience, but I've extended it to a pie shape. So there's two legs, not just one. So for me, if there's a technical angle where I can go very, very deep, but then there's also the background that I have on the business side of things, marketing, communications, and interest in that area as well. And I think, especially in developer relations, it really helps to have a couple of areas that you can go really deep in. And yes, you can start by having that one already from your previous life, and then start building the other one. And I think that's the way to do this type of career switches.
I love that. And if I want to be honest, I had a really small lunch. So when you say it's in the pie shape, I never thought about pie number, but it was my like, okay, let's having a pie wouldn't be a bad idea after the live stream. So,
I'm a nerd.
yeah, I mean, yeah, what does that make me? Like if I thought about the food first. But no, I like that, and I like the T-shaped. I read something about that a while ago, and I thought it was brilliant, because we live in a world, it seems like extreme as a point of view, but like we live in a place where usually in the workforce we consider ourselves like a subject matter expert in something, and like really good at something, but not really being able to do a lot more, or like a jack of all trade, which is often seen as something negative. Like if you don't have any expertise, you can do a lot of things, but maybe not super good, or like just like superficially. But I really love the T shape, because I think it's what most people should be to some extent in their job, like having that T shape knowledge. I don't know what it's called exactly, but as you said, like having one expertise, but also like not just that expertise, like at least having some other knowledge of other part, because you cannot have just one expertise. I don't think it makes sense for most jobs. And also in that kind of economy, and especially in techs where technology, like the cool technology that people use right now, is not the same that people will use in a month, in a year, in 10 years. And I've seen people that struggle to find jobs because their main expertise, they were really, really good with one programming language or one framework, one library, and it was not the thing that people used anymore. And they were like, they were not able to do other stuff, and they struggled to find other jobs because they were like, yeah, they were, how do you call that, like a one trick pony.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the negative way to say that. I don't know if it's a bad idiom in English, but yeah, that's kind of thing. So having that T-shape knowledge, I think it's really important. So I love that. So even better if you have a pie shape, like
Not the
yours.
circle kind of pie, the one that
Yeah.
looks like, maybe I should change it to a chair or a stool or something like that.
No,
But
that was good. It's just like, seriously, I'm hungry. Like I had a that's a crazy day. That doesn't happen often. Like usually where I work we're busy, but like we have a great work-life balance. But I'm going on vacation at the end of today. So it's just like, clearing a lot of things in my list before going. So I had like a really just like a small lunch. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe that was not enough. I'm a little bit hungry. So when you talk about pie, I was like, yeah, I could have a pie
that
right
sounds
now.
good. Yeah, and I find that developer relations is one of those things where, of course, you serving customers, and sometimes things come at you really fast as well. So you might have one plan in the morning for the day, and have
Oh God,
meetings, and
yeah.
maybe sometime blocked away for, I'm going to do this coding task. And I find it actually very often on Mondays, after a weekend, everybody comes back and they're like, okay, now I got to ask about this. So then the inbox and the inbox of questions kind of grows really quickly, and then your whole plan goes out the window, and all of a sudden you notice it's past lunchtime. So
Yep. Yep.
happens.
We have stand-ups at work, not every day. We used to have them every day. I hated those. We removed them completely. I was so happy because I still can follow up what people worked on with the interaction on Slack, but not everybody's happy with that. They wanted stand up. So now we're back to two stand-up per week, which I think is a great like in between. But when we're doing stand-ups every day, I was like, this is my plan for today. And usually when I was like, this is what I've done yesterday, was 50+% different from what the day before I said in the stand up. That was my plan for today. And I was like, you know what? It's not because I'm organized. Like, God knows, like, everybody knows on my team that I'm super organized. It's just like, it's life of devrel. Like, there's a new fire. There's like users that need helps with something specific. There's a new opportunity that pop up that is like time sensitive. And it's just like, most of the time, I can't do 50% of what I plan, sometimes a little more than that, but like depending on the day, especially as you said, Monday is usually Monday or my last day because sometimes I forgot stuff and like, oh my God, like that's gonna be the weekend. I really need to finish that before like that timeline. But yeah, my days are interesting, but at the same time, some people would die to have a job like that, like in the bad sense of the word, because there would be like, I cannot live with that chaos. But I do embrace it. I have ADHD, and that's a way for me to always be excited about things because, like, it's just going in all direction. So I don't know how you feel about that part of the role, like that. Let's call it happy craziness part of the
Yeah,
job.
I like what you said about the chaos, and that's a word that we also use, because it needs to be this type of creative, controlled chaos, that's kind of managed chaos.
Yeah,
But there
yeah,
is no way to know 2 weeks, 3 weeks in advance what questions are coming at you. And you need to be able to be really agile, not just agile in terms of doing the motions of demos and all those things that you need to do for software development to be called agile, but actually agile in terms of how you're approaching your work. And it takes a certain type of person to enjoy that. It doesn't work for
yeah.
everybody. That's for sure. I would say one of those things that for people who are considering maybe to do devrel, or thinking maybe it's something that they'd like to do, I hope everybody gets to try, but it's definitely not for everybody.
Yeah, no, I agree, I agree. And speaking about devrel, now at Mappedin, you're an imposter on the show because your title is VP of Engineering Platform. So you're not a developer advocate per se or developer evangelist per se. I know like many roles. I always say developer relation is a company's effort. Like one person, it may be the responsibility of one person, but like everybody needs to develop a relation to some capacity. But I would be curious, and we can come back to your first role at Mappedin, which was like a staff developer evangelist. So you had the title evangelist, but right now I'm just curious, what does a VP of engineering platform at Mappedin do?
Yeah. We did a little shakeup of titles and responsibilities here in the beginning of the year. So now the title is Enterprise Integrations, just changed. I think that describes all of those titles kind of very well describe similar areas and just kind of maybe what's the focus in there and how we're approaching what we do. Because we are an indoor mapping company and we make tools to make it really easy to make a map. That's the big problem about indoor maps is the data doesn't exist. So if you go and you want to make a wayfinding application, how do you go from Berlin to Paris? All those applications exist for how to do it, how to render it, how to showcase it. That's possible. But also the fact that the road maps exist. It is known how to go from Berlin to Paris because somebody has drawn all the routes and digitized all of that. The world of indoors is not digitized. And what we've been doing for a long time is building the tools to make that possible. And now with my role and what I'm trying to do and what my goal is to make it possible for anybody to build on top of Mappedin technologies. So whether that means doing the developer relations work, go to conferences, talking about it, building demos, sample code, guides, documentation, or then just talking to customers, solutions architecting. Hey, how could we build something in the indoor mapping world together with you that provides value for your customers? So also doing that type of solutions or sales architecting work. And then there's just really going very, very deep into building integrations from one system into another, because it's at the end of the day, it's all data, and it's how people are able to use and utilize that data. So maybe there are ways to integrate Mappedin indoor map data and pull that into something like Microsoft Places, for example, which is something that Microsoft is pushing right now for room booking. And that takes a data integration because the map data comes from one system, the room booking knowledge, whether room is free, who's using it right now, comes from another system. So there's always an integration there involved. And that's what I'm doing from all angles right now from my role. So from very early in the process and early in the sales process, but then also at the end of the day, building some of those things and writing the code to make it happen.
That sounds good. We're gonna come back a little bit later about Mappedin, like and why indoor mapping and all those things. So, but I'm interested. Oh, just before that, actually, there's Tala Nizamani saying hello. Thanks for joining us on the show. Thanks for watching the show. So yeah, let's go back to your first title. I think no, actually, it was not your first title. I showed that like you changed title a couple of times. Actually, you started as a developer evangelist in 2021, moved to a staff developer evangelist, and after that, other role. So yeah, I want to focus because it's the devrel show. I want to focus about those two roles. What was your role specifically like as a developer evangelist? And second question based on that, does the word evangelist as a specific meaning at Mappedin versus you would have been like a developer advocate?
All right. I think I'll answer the second one first.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it has a specific meaning at Mappedin. I know that sometimes it's also like, how do you explain what is developer relations exactly? Is it evangelizing the product, or are you bringing information inside? Which way does the majority of the communication go at between the customer and the company? At Mappedin, there's no that kind of separation. we're a small company, we're still scaling, and that's why you've seen, my role change over the past few years as much as it has as well, to kind of start doing the work myself and then leading the function that does that work. I think it goes both ways. Mappedin. I talk to customers and make sure that they're technically successful. So what I did when I joined, I made sure that we have a platform to make the maps, the geometry, and drawing the indoor maps. But some of the data, such as the opening hours of the Nike store at the mall, the ground truth data source for that is probably somewhere else. It's probably in a system that's accessible for the Nike store manager at that specific mall. So we want to make sure in order to make sure that data is up to date, that data changes. Indoor map data in general changes a lot more than the outdoor. It's easier to change a Nike store to an Apple store than it is to build a whole new road. So indoors change quite a lot. So we want to make sure, that's one of the key points, that the data is always up to date. And that's why we also need some of these integrations. So I started by building those type of data connections and making sure that those work. And then, of course, while doing that, that's a lot of interfacing with the customer, making sure that the customer has the data available that's needed for that data to be synced, asking for access, and a lot of times going back and forth and helping the customer developers understand how our system works, evangelizing how Mappedin system works, but then also coming back in and talking to the dev teams internally and saying, hey, look, these are the needs from the customer. So, and the customer developer and how they see their system working with us, and then, making sure that we do serve the customers in that sense. So there was both ways, always part of the role. And I can keep going.
That makes sense. Let me just add one thing about that. My question was coming from a point where when I started to do developer relation, the only title was like developer evangelist or technical evangelist, and at some point the industry changed to developer advocate or technical advocate, because the word evangelist was not always well received, especially by people that are really religious. For me, I loved it, not for the fact that it was unrespectful for some people, which it's not. I don't think it was a problem, but it was a great icebreaker, because when I was telling people like, hey, I'm a developer evangelist, and we're like, what the fuck? Are you going to church every Sunday? And I was like, there was a good icebreaker to have a discussion with people. But when the industry moved to developer advocate role, like some company, usually, as you said, like you were in a small company, but usually bigger company, they may have two teams, and it's exactly as you said, like they're going to have like developer relation that's going to be more like the two-way streets, where they're going to bring feedback and they're going to be advocates for the developers internally, where the evangelist is going to be like they're going to push out and like try to create as much content as possible to evangelize the product. But I believe maybe it makes sense in big companies because you have a lot of resources, but I believe that it should always be like a developer advocate, like you said, like a two-way street, because my job is still to evangelize my product. Like I want people to use Construct, one of our product that's Construct, like Qfers or Colony. Like that's the end goal, if I want to be honest, because I want users, and at some point I want paid users, because you know what, I like to get a paycheck. I like to make a living from that. So I want the company to be successful. But my job is, as weird as this may sound for some people that are not familiar with developer relations, my job is to help people being successful. And if it means you're not successful with my product, and my product is not the right fit for you, it's not the right fit for you. I'm not in a sales position to try to force people, which I'm not saying all salespeople do that, but like my end goal is not the amount of money. My end goal is like the success of people, is that the joy people is going to have to use my product, is maybe the conversion in some ways, is having a community, is having everybody feel welcome. So yeah, so my question was coming from there, so I just want to be clear, and I do not mind any title. Actually, I don't care about titles at all. I'm just like, let's do our job, but I understand many people care. But I always have that question about like the specificity of the title, because it's interesting to me. So sorry, I just wanted to clarify that. If you want to continue about the role, I know you said you still had some stuff you wanted to share with us.
I think it's the title conversation is actually very interesting, because for me it also, and we had this conversation about what is my title, and it's changing, it keeps changing. But to be honest, the core of my work hasn't changed.
Mhm.
It's still putting the customer first and being the technical counterpart, whether it's at the moment of sales or implementation, or customer success after customers are live. It doesn't matter what point in time in that process. I'm always the technical person trying to make sure that everything is successful
Mhm.
in the end of the day. And today, like there's like 0 day since I've recommended that a customer should be using something else than our product because we were just not the right product for that customer.
Mhm.
And I think that is kind of part of that's liberating about this role as well, because you're not there to chase that next deal.
Yeah.
You're looking for the technical solution, and I think that's the other part of the personality that I feel like is really good for developer relations, is you're always looking for that solution. And sometimes we're an indoor mapping company, and often customers come and ask us about something that's actually not about indoors. It's mostly outdoors, and maybe there's a little indoor component, but we might not be the right solution. And I think it takes sometimes it feels like it takes a little bit of courage to be able to say that, hey, we're not the right offering here for you.
Yeah.
Maybe there's this other company that could serve that need better. And that's the solution and customer first approach.
Yeah.
That it really doesn't matter what your title is, but if that's the mindset, that's what matters.
I agree with everything you said, and I like the fact that you're saying maybe telling someone that you're not the right product for them means it's the customer first approach.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I know it may seem counterintuitive to say like, hey, you know what, we're not the right product. In the short term, it may seem like it's not the right decision, but I've been in so many startups, and especially at the stage where, like, now we need to start to make money, and we're going to take like everyone as customers, and we're going to focus on like all the features that people want because like they ask us this, so we're going to implement this, so they're going to become a customer. But most of the time when it was the case, it always translated to like, oh, now we're like spreading tin, working on so many things for potential customers, while we forget about the people that could use the feature that we're already offering them. And usually in the long run, those things do not pan out. You worked a lot to implement something, and finally they don't become customers, or they don't stay for that long, and it doesn't make sense. Or you try to force or what is it, like a peg in a squirrel, or I was
Yeah.
looking for the English idiom about that. But yeah, you try to force a shape in the shape that doesn't make sense, and it may work for a month or two, but those won't become loyal customers because you're not solving their issues. Like,
Right.
you need to like define what's the problem they want to solve, what do they need from you, and if you cannot answer there's issue, I mean, it just doesn't work. And
Yeah.
I like Tella. She's saying, or you saying, I agree with you, Fred. And by the way, a cat emoji is great. So yeah, people agreeing with me is a great thing. So I just wanted to highlight that. Sorry, Jere.
No, that's great. And I realized that as well, that in even in sales, right? Like, I know this is not really about sales; it's about developer relations. But really coming with the right solution is what people want, and what your customers ultimately want is for they have a job to be done. They want something done, and if you sell them the wrong thing, they won't become loyal customers and repeat customers. And of course, if you're in the software as a service business, as a lot of developer relations people are, those things are distractions if they're not the right fit.
Yeah,
Right. And
I
for us,
agree.
it's easy. We know what an indoor is, like, kind of well defined as well. And there are very well defined strengths for us. And we can kind of draw those lines, but it's not always that easy either. And those distractions can become quite a lot.
Yeah, and I really want to say one thing, because often on the show, devrel folks, we don't always have good experience with salespeople or business development people, and we also we often say things like we just said, like not having the best customer, like not having not perfect customers, but like trying to sell to someone that should probably not be a customers, should not be something that we do, but it's coming from devrel's perspective. I have gigantic respect for business development people and salespeople that have the pressure to translate whatever the fuck they do all day long to amount of money, and it must be really difficult to reach a point where say like, you know what, you're not a good fit, instead of like trying to make that customer fit within what you try to sell that person, because at the end of the day, that's your job that is on the line, that's your bonus, that's the success in your role, which for me it's quote unquote easy. I mean, like, I still need those people to perform, so we make money and I get a paycheck and I get a job, but it's easier for me because it's not my job to do that. So just want to say that I never bitch again, sales teams or any other team. I'm afraid sometimes of the approach that those team takes, because it goes against what I'm trying to do or what I'm trying to build as a devrel person at the company. But kudos. It's not an easy
Yeah.
job, especially in the tech industry, I would assume, because so often you talk to basically like the bottom of the funnel, you talk to like developers, you talk to people that will use their product, and developer are notorious sales hater. Like, we hate when
Yes.
people try to sell us stuff, so it's why we don't like product pitches. It's like in the conferences when you try to submit something, you're like, no product pitches and stuff like that, because like you don't want to feel like you're in a room with someone who's going to try to sell you something. So it makes sales and business development people life not quite easy, but again, huge respect for what you're doing, folks.
Absolutely, and I actually love what love the people I get to work at Mappedin with on the sales side of things, because we all understand that there's pressure to sell, and you do want to get more people using indoor maps, and we understand also that the best way to make really happy customers is to really think about what they want, be the
Mhm.
technical, build them the right technical solution, whatever that is, and be the consultant for finding the right solutions. And I find like the sales team, and I could talk about probably another half an hour about technical sales, but like in general, like finding some really great people to partner there with can be really a strength for developer relations as well, because technical sales is really hard.
It
The audience is huge. Developers are rejecting you. They don't want to hear the sales pitch, but eventually, your business does need to make a buck to pay the salaries as well. So
Yep.
it's a balance, and I don't. I personally take it from the approach. It's actually super easy for me because I'm passionate about maps, so I could talk about them all day. But at the end of the day, I'm just here to talk about maps and what technology can do when in a sales situation. What could be done, and if that fits for you, let's keep talking. If not, that's all right.
Mhm.
So
I like that approach. So since you're so passionate about maps, I think it's the time for you to show us your product. Talk a little more about Mappedin. As I always say in those show, we're all developer advocates, so we could talk forever about different topics. But the show is it's time for the show to move to the technical demo, the demo about your product. And just before I share your screen, I want to thank our sponsor, which is Construct, my employer. Thanks for allowing me to run that the devrel show and all the supports within my endeavor. And lastly, just before I forget, if you are based in New York, we just took the ownership of the Cloud Native New York meetup actually 2 months ago. The organizer decided to move to something else. We saw an opportunities, so we decided to take the ownership of the Cloud Native New York meetups. There is 1,500 members. It was quite active, so our goal is to continue to have that meetup, getting back on his feet. So the first meetup is going to be on February 27. It's going to start at 6 p.m. Doors going to open at 5:30. It's at the DigitalOcean office in New York. It's well situated. We're going to have Brian Matheson and Hamid Jet20, who's going to share with us their knowledge about different cloud native technologies. Thanks a lot to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the event, presenting the event. They offer us the venue, and they're going to sponsor food and drinks. So go to the meetup page on meetup.com at Cloud Native New York. Join us if you are in New York City. That's gonna be amazing. That's gonna be fun to meet people face to face. Also, if you are based in New York or not, and you want to speak at the meetup, please let me know, ping me, or if you want to sponsor the meetup. As I said, there's 1,500 members right now, and we intend to continue to grow the number of interesting cloud native enthusiast people. So yeah, see you in February at the New York meetup. So on that note, let's talk about maps.
Let's. I think my background is a little bit blurred, but there's a big map of New York right there. I was there earlier this year, and I had to get myself a map as a souvenir.
I like that. You're a real map geek.
Real map geek. That is a thing there. I'm pretty sure there is a couple of Reddit communities for if there happens to be anybody here who hasn't heard about those. Go have a look. I like maps. They're tools for communication. You're always wanting to make the world around you easier to understand, and then communicate something with a map. So maps always have a purpose. Navigation or understanding distances between places. Of course, Google Maps and these type of applications come to our mind first.
Speaking of maps, I mean, I use outdoor maps all the time. I use once or maybe a couple more times, but not as often as external or outdoor maps. When I go to like a shopping mall and you need to find a store, but I assume there is a lot more use cases for indoor maps. So maybe even before, unless you already plan to talk about that, but I would be curious to understand a little more the use cases of indoor maps before you start to show us like everything we can do with the product, if it makes sense for you.
So let's actually go then to some of the one of the biggest use cases. I'll show you. I wasn't going to demo the product. I was going to show some of the cool stuff you can do once you have an indoor map and building it. How easy
actually, you just answered one of my questions. I just realized like every time I travel, airport maps just save my ass.
Yes, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because you mentioned malls. We've been doing malls for 13 years. And we've also been doing airports for a while now. And I think airports is really the place where you want to have a great map. People are stressed. They have to go somewhere. They don't want to get lost. They probably don't have any extra time. So you really want to know how to get from place to place. So LAX, Los Angeles Airport, I think 80 million passengers per year go through there. And if you look at something like Google Maps or something, you don't get to go all the way indoors. And some places like airports and malls sometimes have indoor maps on Apple and Google, and we can also help companies to put their maps there. What they don't have is the wayfinding and knowing what Emirates, how to get from Emirates, checking counters, what time is it open, what flights are going from there, and then how to get to a gate. The gates which are here, and often also indoor maps are interesting because there is that, let's say, terminal.
I think I used your product before. I just didn't remember, but
so
like telling you where to go.
Yeah. So indoor maps, you have to be able to go out a little bit outside, inside, and then changing the floors, right? So if you look at Google Map or something, we're used to 2D being enough. Maybe some people prefer a satellite view. I have different overlays. Very often I have the public transit overlay when I'm in a city. But what about the third dimension, right? So how do you know where to go up and down? And indoors, of course, at airports, you also have a security wait time for 8 minutes that you need to calculate to your routing as well. So knowing all that makes it easier for you to navigate indoors. And we're used to having this available with Google Maps, like I said, going from Paris to Berlin or when driving to the airport. But why does it have to stop there? It doesn't. The big problem with indoor maps is that the data is hard to get. The data set doesn't exist. So we are working with the venue owners and operators to create these maps and what I mentioned earlier as well, to keep them up to date. As you can imagine, if you're at an airport and the map is not up to date, it tells you to go the wrong way or something. That's also not what you want. I mean, that is not a positive experience at the airport when you're already stressed and traveling.
Yeah, especially at the airport. I'm not going to be a happy customer.
Right. So how easy it is to make maps today? This is absolutely crazy. It used to take a long time to generate this data. Here I'm using one of our demo floor plans. So there are different ways of making indoor map data. One of them is going from a floor plan that somebody has drawn somewhere. Typically, when you have a building, there is some kind of a computer-aided design file or architecture. At some point, at least design it a little bit. Here we have a pretty neat-looking indoor floor plan. But this same thing could work if you started from, hotels. You have that exit map, emergency exit, where you have to walk. I've also taken a picture of one of those and uploaded it to our system and made a map based on that.
Oh, nice.
That's also possible. But the key here, of course, is AI magic. The keyword of the decade, I'm sure, AI.
Yes.
But what that means for us is it's not a large language model that can talk back to you. It is using some similar architectures as we've seen in the current generation of the AI revolution, of course. But when you run AI mapping, it looks at your floor plan and turns that into geometry, vector data that can then be used for displaying the map, and then also automatically to give you the routing. How do you get from A to B? Now, it's AI. It's not necessarily 100% accurate always. That's how it is. Even if you ask ChatGPT something, you don't always get the 100% correct answer.
Yeah, they even have a warning that say like, "Hey, if it's important information, verify because it can go wrong. Like it can be wrong." And I'm like, "Okay, that's a good trust in your product."
Yeah. And here, I mean, I think this is a pretty good result. This is absolutely amazing. This happens in seconds. You go from a floor plan to a digital map.
That's amazing.
That's the power of what we build, and why I love what we're doing is revolutionizing really how fast it is. And maybe there's a door here, right? Like maybe it didn't catch that. Maybe there isn't. So that's why it also makes sense for someone who owns this venue to do this work and be able to then edit the map, quickly add a segment of wall there, or if there is a door, connect these two walls together and then add a door there.
But anyway, let's say it goes wrong and you do like 80% of the work. Right. It's like a lot of rooms I don't have to define and a lot of doors I don't have to put. So that's amazing.
Right. So let's delete the AI results, right? So manually, you could, of course, draw all of this. And this is, I would say, this is how it happened historically, right?
Yeah.
But going through all of this by yourself, and you can see the AI already there is helping me. It recognizes the door while I'm drawing. It's the helpful background agent there. But this would take a long time. So being able to do that from scratch with the AI is super helpful, because it turns it into a navigable map like you saw for Los Angeles airport there within seconds.
That's great. I like that.
Running through the AI there again. I want to show you a map that we made before.
I love someone who trusts this product. Like it don't run the example once, you do it twice, and you're like, that's gonna be good. That's gonna
on a live show. Yes, I think that's actually the holy grail for a developer relations person, where you can trust the product so much that you do the live demo twice on a call, and you're really fighting against the demo spirits there and seeing how they could screw you over. Yeah, it's still working. It really is the holy grail in terms of being able to work in a company where you have fun. And this is the output of the map that we've done earlier for an event demo. So the mapping is so easy that you could even do one-time mapping. So we were in New York, conference in New York. I think it was a DevRel Con 2024 earlier last year, and we made maps for that. yes, it was a 2-3 day event, right? But because the mapping is so easy, it takes an hour. It was my personal hobby project, right? So I was like, I'll just add stuff there on the map, right? Like it's not too difficult. I also map museums on my weekends for fun. I like going to museums and then having a map for them. It's just a fun thing to do with the tool. But right now, then, if we want to share the link, if I put this in the chat, I think I need to click join the chat. Oh, okay, I can't. I can send it in private chat. So
Yeah, you can send it to me.
you
I'll
can
share it
share
to
it there,
everybody.
right? So anybody can go view this map now and get directions from conference room to the auditorium. Of course, it's a small place. Maybe you don't need the directions more than once, but you can do other stuff with the map afterwards. So wayfinding is only one use case for these maps.
I like that. Can I ask you a non-map related question?
Yes.
You were at DevrelCon last year. I was supposed to be there. I had so many flights issues that I was like, okay, I'm not gonna make it for a 2 day event. So unfortunately, I was not able to go. So I'm gonna go for sure this year as an attendee, maybe as a speaker. We'll see. But that was it.
It was amazing. I would recommend to anybody who has the chance and works or wants to work in developer relations to go to DevrelCon. For someone like me, I've spent, let's say, the past year, 2 years, mostly going to conferences where we talk about maps. It was really refreshing to go and hear what other people are saying about developer relations, other things that are happening there. It can be validating, a lot of the conversations that are happening there, because internally, of course, I'm not talking with other developer relations people, and that's why I love being here on the show, and that you're doing a show like this where other people are talking about developer relations and their experience in the area. Because when you're in the thick of it, you don't really get to see the bigger picture. What are other people doing? And then you go there and you notice other people have thought about this stuff too. They have the same problems, similar things. There's a lot of parallels between what people are doing in developer relations in different companies, and often there's no conflict in sharing that information with each other. So I would recommend these type of industry conferences if you're serious about developer relations as a career.
Nice. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Reminds me, I haven't booked my tickets yet, but I should probably do that for 2025 as well. So map geek 100%. Even I have one map here and I managed to turn it into 6 different versions. One of them is a security map. So you have the same walls, you have the same furniture on the map, but now you have a very different view of what was happening there before. So maybe the previous one was focused on wayfinding and how to get from place A to place B. But here we see key card access, temperature detector, electrical panel, security control panel. So now this is the map for the security people of the venue, and they can use this for different things, different interesting things. So that's I think the power of, once you have the walls in place, walls and rooms and the fixtures in place, now you can start using the map for multiple different purposes. Do you want to do data analytics, data visualizations on it? Do you want to do asset tracking? Do you want to know, which access point this temperature detector is connected to? What's the strength of Wi-Fi in different areas of your event space? Probably one of the most important things in an event space. How's your Wi-Fi? And you can visualize that on the map.
A lot of venue would need that.
Yes,
as the Wi-Fi signal.
Yeah. So what I actually built a little bit something for us for this, just to keep it even more technical for developers, to showcase how I would put things together. So what's happening here is there's an outdoor base map from OpenStreetMaps there. We're using MapLibre together with then Mappedin indoor map data, and on top of that there's a library called DeckGL. It's a DeckGL is I think originally from Uber, if I'm not misspeaking, but this type of map data visualization library for JavaScript. So what's happening here is you got the outdoor map, and then you got the mapped in indoor map and the data, but then also these arcs that show you the connections between the Internet of Things at your venue, right? So here we got one of those access points that is connected to all these temperature sensors, and the colors here fully simulated. It's not even a real place. It's a demo venue, but could indicate, for example, signal strength. So you can easily see where you might want to distribute or add a new access point to your system. So it's just one of the ways you can do more than just the basic wayfinding that everybody thinks of when they first think about maps.
I like that. I like that. So you were using Mappedin, like you have an SDK or library people can
Yeah,
use?
yeah, we have an SDK. It is focused. It is a mapping SDK. It's focused on the indoors because, as I mentioned, indoors have that unique problem of being in the third dimension. So visualizing that, we need to take a lot more things into account compared to somebody who's just doing 2D renderings, or even just 2D and footprints and extruded footprints. No, you need to see inside the building, and the requirements are different. So we have our own SDKs for JavaScript, iOS, Android, and React Native there.
That sounds good. That's amazing. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing the product and how to use it. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure many people use your product without even knowing it. You know, as you said, like airport or like shopping mall. Like when you were demoing at the Lax airport, and I was like, yeah, I used that before. I mean, like I used it. I just didn't remember that I was using it before. And Tella said, amazing work. And you may have missed it before because you were sharing your screen, but she also said, Jere is a map geek, which I kind of agree. I kind of agree.
Unapologetically map geek. I can definitely own that label very well. I don't mind at all.
That's amazing. So I assume it's everything you wanted to show us today.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to kind of talk about maps.
Wonderful, wonderful. It felt like it was the end, but at the same time, I was like, I don't want to remove the share screen and be rude, like if there's something else.
Yeah.
And actually, I think it's a good time. There is my like it's not a room, but it's a narwhal that wants to clean my office, and I was like, nope, not during the live stream. It's not going to happen. So yeah, on that note, thanks a lot for sharing, you know, your journey, talking about like sharing your view and your vision about developer relation, obviously talking about the product. If people wants to try it, you can contact him on Twitter or X. I still say Twitter. I won't say X. I don't know. Or on LinkedIn, of course. I shared all the links also during the show, like mappedin.com. There's also developer.mappedin. And I learned right before the show that it's a Canadian company also. So woohoo! I'm Canadian for the people that do not know. So there's I'm proud here to have a Canadian company on the show, a Canadian on the show, someone living in Canada on the show, plus from a company, a Canadian company. So awesome. So anything else you want to share with the folks watching us live or people watching the recording?
Just one thing: go make a map. It's free. That's one of the things that I haven't said yet. It's actually free to get started. You can just make a map for free. We don't charge you for playing around or anything like that. So go make maps, even for your local library. They could put it on their website for free. That's why I'm doing the museum maps. Just adding bit by bit more information into the world. So, but thanks for having me. It's
I like
great,
that.
great show, and thank you.
I like that. When you say put more information in the world, it's like it's useful information, which is a big difference with a lot of information being on a web these days. Now I sound like a whole mailing in the cloud, but yeah, no, having useful information is it's amazing. And Tella saying how map helped my university. I really like the demo, so that's amazing. That's the goal. Try it. It's free and it can get started. So. Amazing. So thanks everyone for watching the live stream. Thank Jere for joining me as a guest. That was a pleasure to have you again. And folks, we're going to have a small break from the devrel show. I'm going to be back only in 5 weeks. So the next show is going to be on March 6th because I'm leaving for vacation, a trip in India for 3 weeks. And time-wise with the Q First Live that we do construct, basically the next show when I'm back is going to be actually the next show when I'm going to be back is going to be a Cube First Live, because I do this every other week, like the Cube First Live on a Thursday after the devrel show, and the other way around. But when I'm coming back the week after, it's time for the Cube First Live, and the week after that's going to be the devrel show. So I'm going to have Amanda Martin on March 6th. So you're going to have a break from me, which I guess also it's not a bad thing. So thanks again, everyone, for watching us, and see you in a couple of weeks for another episode. Have a good time.